Hello and welcome back to In the Kitchen with Pen. Now, today I am going to be making traditional Cornish pasties, but I can't really call them Cornish pasties because I don't live and they're not being made in Cornwall. To be a traditional Cornish pasty, since 2011, it has a protected geographical indication status in Europe, which means like champagne has to be made a certain way, and in the Champagne region of France it can only be called champagne if it's made that way or in that area. So I'm making a Cornish style pasty. Now I have no rings on, so you know what that means, pastry. So in my bowl I have 500 grams of bread flour, strong white bread flour. The reason you use this is because this is quite a tough pastry. You know, you imagine it was made years ago, hundreds of years ago. The miners took them down the mine, so they had to hold their own. So strong white bread flour, 500 grams, 120 grams of butter, 120 grams of lard, a teaspoon of salt, and that is all in this bowl. So I shall bring you down, and we are just going to, just like you always do with pastry, we are just going to bring it together. Let's get the fats covered in flour, and we're going to rub them together like this. Now the fat is still quite cold, so it's going to take a little minute, but you just bring it up, you're rubbing it together between your fingers like so. And if you've got a pastry kneader, so much the better. You can do this in, as I've said before, in a food processor, but I like doing it by hand. Although the older I'm getting, the arthritis is getting worse in my hand, and my right hand at the moment is really painful right down there, but we shall persevere. So I'm going to carry on doing this, and we'll come back to you when it's all nicely breadcrumb like. Right then, I have kneaded the fats into the flour, and I don't mind telling you that hurt, but now I'm just going to make a little well, and I'm going to add in some water, and all I'm doing is adding water until the pastry starts to come together and I have a clean bowl. So depending where you are, you may need more, you may need less water. I haven't measured the amount of water, I've just poured some into a jug and I've gone from there. So we need to bring it together, and it has to be cold water, don't use warm, you'll start melting your fats for a start. Right. Now get in there with your hands and start bringing it together, and it is taking quite a lot of water. And I've got some flour on my work surface, as you can see, because I'm going to have to knead this together. Right, but first I need a little drop more water, probably more than that's in there. We are getting there. So this has all come together, so that can go onto the board. We'll try with this, rather than adding too much more water, just bring it together with this bit of dough that is still damp. A little touch more water for this bit. sauce on my hands, it's really sticky. Right, so we're going to tip it out, and what we're going to do is we're going to bring it all together by kneading it, almost like it is a bread dough that we're going to knead, but we want it all together. Oops, nearly had it all over the floor then, didn't I? Right, that's it. And as I've said before, we're using a bread dough, so it will take more kneading, more coming together than a bread flour than if you'd have used ordinary plain or self-raising flour. Right, now that's come together, it's not too crumbly. And what I have to do now, and this is the hardest part of making this, I've now got to wrap this in cling and leave it in the fridge for 2 to 3 hours. Right, cling film. There we go, pop that in there, wrap that, and that's going to go tucked away in the fridge for at least 2 hours. Right, we'll be back. Right then, speak properly, Penny. Our pastry has rested. I've taken it out of the fridge, ready to roll. Meantime, I have cut 500 grams of beef skirt. Now, skirt is the most traditional cut to use. So I've cut 500 grams of beef skirt into bite-sized pieces. I've also cut 200 grams of onions, 200 grams of swede, and I've chipped it rather than diced it. Okay, so 200, and then I've got 450 grams, sorry, of potato that I have diced. It's all raw. A traditional pasty, everything is raw. I've beaten an egg ready to glaze, and I've got my black pepper ready to season, because pasties, the only seasoning they have, don't be putting oxo cubes in there, don't be cooking your beef first, because that's not how they're made. The only seasoning is perhaps a little salt, but most definitely you need some black pepper. So let's get this rolled out, and obviously I'm not going to roll this all out at once, so let's get that out, keep that covered, and move you down and show you what we're doing. Right, I've got my mat there because it makes it clear up easier. I've got the pastry, I'm just going to make sure it's all covered in flour, and I've got this rolling pin, this stainless steel rolling pin I got from Amazon, and the good thing about it is it has discs, so that you only roll out to the thickness of pastry you want. We have a 2mm disc, a 3mm disc which is on, a 6mm disc and a 10mm disc, so that you get everything rolled out evenly, because sometimes that can be the worst thing about pastry, is rolling it out evenly. So I'm just going to roll this pastry out. So there it is, all 3mm thick, no thin bits, no thick bits, or thicker bits should I say. But once it's all 3mm thick, we can go from there. And always give your pastry a quarter turn on each roll. That way you get, it's just perfect, touch wood. Quarter roll. I'm just going to keep rolling until I'm ready to cut. Right, now how big you cut your pasties is up to you. I'm using a side plate, a tea plate, a sandwich plate, whatever you want to call it, whatever you call it. And I am just cutting round, and as I say, I know that I haven't got one end that's thicker than the other. They are, the complete is 3mm all the way, so that is quite good. And I'm going to get 2 pastry brushes, and I'm going to get some water, and that, sorry, I always try and be ready and then forget. So now we're going to load up our pasty, and our pasty is obviously, we're going to have, and it's all going on one, you know, towards one side but in the middle. Okay, so we've got our potato, and we know that potatoes like salt, so I'm going to season this with some salt. I've got my butter, and I'm just going to dot a couple of dots of butter on top. Now you could mix everything together, it's entirely up to you, it really is. So we've got our potato, and now we've got our meat, so we're going to pop some meat on, and you know, we want to know that we've got our meat. We want it to be a pasty that we can taste everything. Right, and I'm going to have to get a, just rinse my hand, dry my hand off, get a spoon for my salt and my pepper now. So we're going to go with the pepper. Be generous, as I say, that's all a pasty is seasoned with, is your salt and pepper. So a little bit more salt, and then our onions. Don't put carrots if you want it to be a traditional style pasty. There is no carrots. I'll tell you what else there's not. There's definitely no peas. It's just onions, potato, swede, your skirt steak, and your black pepper. Got enough here that I can be a bit more generous with the meat. And we'll try and keep it like so. Then the water, actually I will put some more butter on there. It just gives it, I don't want to say a sauce, but it does help. Okay, we're going to brush around the edges of this pastry just to give it something to bind onto. And then we're going to go over and join the edges together and seal. I mean, it's a very generous pasty, as you can see. Join the edges together so that they are sealed. Some will, if you're like me, come out. Okay, so now they're sealed, and this is where the fun starts. We're going to make sure, now you could leave them like that, you could, but I'm going to attempt a crimp. So thumb there, over there, thumb there, over there, oops, thumb and bring the pastry over, thumb and bring the pastry over, thumb, bring the pastry over, thumb, bring the pastry over, thumb, bring the pastry over. It's not a very good crimp. Thumb, bring the pastry over. And you just keep doing that all the way around. And I think a traditional Cornish pasty should have a minimum of 24 crimps. So I don't think I've done anywhere near 24, but you know. Right, that's your first pasty. Rolled out, made, filled. Just going to put it to one side on the baking tray, and I'll get on with all the others. Right then, we have 4 fairly hefty pasties there. Got some ingredients left, but that's not an issue because I'm going to make something else. So now you need to glaze them, and if you glaze them with an egg, it is just so much nicer. You'll get just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful colour on them. So I'll egg glaze them. Meanwhile, I shall preheat my oven to 165, and these are going to take about 50 minutes. Right, so let's carry on doing this. That's that job done. Now you could pop these into the fridge, let them get colder, and then reglaze them before baking. Before glazing them, you could actually just stick them in your freezer, and then they'll take about the same amount of time, maybe about an hour actually, when you take them out, and you can cook from frozen. So these are very good for make ahead. Right, now obviously there's water in the vegetables, so that might have a tendency to make our pastry soggy. Well, we don't want soggy pastry, do we? Well, I don't. So we need to get a little knife, pointed knife, and just cut a couple of slits into the top of the pastry to let that steam out. That way we should have crunchy, crusty pastry, beautiful cooked filling, and wonderful, there we go, we're warm, pasties. So they're going in. Oh, as I say, they are hefty. Leave those, nothing more I can do now. We'll be back when they're cooked. Right, they're almost cooked. They've got about 20 seconds. They look, even if I do say so myself, quite fabulous. They smell really good. Now, I'm going to take them out. I'm going to let them cool, because there is no way we're going to be able to eat one straight from the oven. There we go, we're cooked. Eat one straight from the oven, because, well, I haven't got a cast iron gullet, and neither, excuse me, has Steve. Now, let's show you these before I talk about something else. Look at those. Yeah, well, if they taste as nice as they look, we're in for a treat. Now, as you know, I had some of the mix left over. In my fridge, I had some puff pastry. So I thought, well, I'll make a puff pastry one, just so that you can see that you don't have to make proper puff pastry. Proper Cornish pasty pastry. No, you don't have to, but let me tell you, it is far better if you do, because the puff pastry one disintegrated. The bottom of the pastry fell apart, and obviously you can't cook them for as long because the puff pastry cooks quicker. So the onions and the well, not so much onions, the potatoes and the swede were quite, they had quite a bite, shall we put it that way. So you can't make a proper Cornish style pasty if you use puff pastry. You would have to pre-soften your ingredients, and as I've said, therefore it's no longer a Cornish pasty, is it? Right, that's back in there. That's off, that's off. Let's show you these. I mean, they are full. They haven't collapsed. As I say, they smell fantastic. So we'll let those cool for a while, and then Steve can come through and let you know what he thinks. He does love a pasty. Right, rather than you just listen to me waffle and say whether it's any good or not, we have the maestro. So, give your opinion. Of the pasties.
To be honest, it does smell like Cornwall. It smells like I'm in Newquay. All I can smell is sardines. Not really. It does smell. I could smell them when I was watching the football, and I was getting quite hungry. So I'm looking forward to these. I'll be honest, the crimping, I'm not sure.
No, the crimping's poop, and I did say that when I was making it.
Okay, well, I'm just confirming.
Oh, for goodness sake.
That's it, people can see me now. But they look really good.
Right,
it
get on
smells
and taste,
really good.
I'm just looking, we've got a red light on there.
You've got a red light?
Yeah.
Oh. Aha! It's hot.
Just come out of a hot place.
Tastes like pasty. Looks like a pasty. What the hell, it's a pasty. 5 stars.
Oh, right. Thank you very much. Hope you've enjoyed. He's going there. He's not rushing back to eat the pasty, he's rushing back to watch football. Thank you very much for watching this edition of In the Kitchen with Pen. If you've enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up. Any comments, write them down below. Don't forget to hype, please. And we shall see you again next time in the Kitchen with Pen. Bye bye for now.